Okay. Pretty fine. Yeah, hello everybody. Today we're gonna have a presentation of new channel, Stellium7, the channel that was making a series of videos about the gigantic creature research, the Mongo, also called the elephant. Uh, Channels is a new one, but it has a bunch of interest and engagement, I think, because a lot of big channels came up in your first video and commented, and I think shared something. So how it's going? Your name is Michael, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
So you're from Spain. You just told me you live near the sea, so you're a lucky one.
Yeah, I live on the Costa Blanca, right basically at the foot of Montgo. So, but I'm from California originally. I'm not from Spain.
Oh, really? Oh, where you from? I've been to San Francisco once for like 4 days or maybe 5 days.
Yeah, I was born in LA and grew up not far from there.
Oh, very cool.
Uh,
We got Andres Xirtus also from California, I think.
yeah, I've listened to some of his stuff. He's got a lot of interesting things to say.
So what are you in right now? I mean, what are your perception of this alternative views that people started to promote like recent 3-4 years? I mean, flat Earth, mud flat, Tartaria research. What are you in? What are you buying
Yeah,
actually?
well, I'm definitely not convinced that the shape of the Earth is spherical anymore. That I can say for sure. And when I got onto the whole topic that I made the videos about, I knew nothing about Tartaria or mud floods. Um, I mean, I knew that there were great floods in the historical past. Um, and like I said in my videos, I was originally I stumbled across Mud Fossils University, Rogers stuff, and I started thinking about, wait a minute, fossilization can happen a lot quicker. That's a very interesting concept. That it doesn't take tens of thousands or millions of years. That it can happen a geological blink of an eye. And if that's the case, then everything we know about layers of strata and dating, it's all up for grabs. And then from there, I saw Jay Dreamer's Petrified Titans video, which it just really got my imagination running. And then a third video, which I didn't mention and I meant to mention in my videos, that really was great, was by a flat Earth channel called Wakey Wakey, and he did I think it was Geology Revived or Revisited. I can't remember the exact title.
Flat Earth
And
geology.
well, he was examining geology,
Uh,
and
he, he
he the first. Pardon me.
he called it like flat Earth geology, something like a
Oh,
video.
it was Flat Earth Advanced, and then it was Geology Revived or Revisited. Wakey Wakey, Wayki,
Mm.
and fantastic stuff that he puts out. And the first, I think, 40 minutes of that video, he just demolishes the cornerstones of mainstream geology using geology's own words, and I thought that was really fascinating. So if there's anything I've discovered over the last couple decades of study, it's that when it comes to just about any topic you can imagine, the mainstream thinking on it is usually either wrong or based on lies or intentionally misleading. So I when I you know when I saw Jay Dreamer's video, I'd been hiking this mountain for ages, and I'm just like, no way. I started after I saw Roger's stuff with Mud Fossils University. I was walking around, taking hikes and looking at all the rocks, going, "Was that a piece of flesh?" Once upon a time, I'm like, "There's just no way." And I'm looking. But there were a bunch of rocks that were on trails that I regularly took. That even before I came across all this stuff, I was looking and going, "How the hell did those form?" you know. It just they looked
Well,
they looked like something that had grown. They looked like pieces of flesh and had blood vessels and looked like the like skin and other things. And I had never studied mainstream geology at all, so I couldn't look at it and go, oh, that's a such and such, and it was formed in the Cretaceous period or whatever. I didn't. So, but I have a background I in one of the videos I said medicine, and then someone followed up and said I was an MD, and I'm not. I don't want to mislead people into thinking I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, but actually in Europe they don't use the title doctor. But the first
doctor, what you said?
of chiropractic, I'm a chiropractor. So the first 3 years of chiropractic study are basically are basically the same as pre-med.
It's
So
a manual therapy, right? Or what?
manual therapy, yes,
Yeah.
adjusting people's spines and necks and backs and everything for the purposes of improving their health.
Is it
Um,
excuse me, is it alternative medicine right now in Europe, or is it mainstream? I have to understand.
it depends on the country. Some of the countries regulate it, and it's part of their social healthcare systems, and it's even subsidized. And here in Spain, it's not regulated. There's no law governing chiropractic, and so basically, even though I've got a 5-year degree at university level, I'm on the same I'm on the same level with massage therapists, acupuncturists, homeopathists, and you know, it's yeah. So
It's
it's not
alternative.
mainstream.
It's alternative.
It's
Okay.
alternative
Yeah.
medicine. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so 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 do we have in Russia. I mean, we have naturally had books in 19th century. I've seen a couple of them, huge books, and they probably were in each and every house. And that book, uh, with the easy explanation of each and every disease that could probably possibly happen, and what to do, how to cure the person. And so it was like, um, people needed less doctors and medicine in 19th century is what I figured. Have you
Far less.
observed that?
Oh God, it's changed. Just in my lifetime, I've seen it change dramatically. I mean, when I was a kid, doctors still did house calls. Now doctors don't even have time to talk to people. It's just like, you're in there before you've even finished telling them what your symptoms are, you're already getting a prescription for some medication or multiple medications. And the irony is that chiropractic and these other professions are considered alternative healthcare. And if you think about the fact that mainstream medicine has been around, not much more than 100 years, it's really the alternative. And if you go and you look at something like chiropractic, for example, they were doing bone setting back in the Greeks were doing bone setting. And in fact, the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, 400 years before Christ, if you believe the timeline, um, he said that if you wanted to understand the nature of disease, look first to the spine. And there are hieroglyphics from the Egyptian times that appear to, it looks like they're doing manipulation. So it's old knowledge. The chiropractic profession's only been around for 130 years or so. But it's, first, non-invasive care. Then if that doesn't work, maybe some kind of a medication. And then the absolute final, choice should be surgery.
What I'm researching is actually researching the mostly 19th century, what happened there, and so that's why the question was about that. So I mean, I'm trying to find all these naturally used, originally used practices that could easily help a person to cure himself, and I also
Mm-hmm.
found special forces methodic books, how
Mm-hmm.
to survive in each and that situation. And I think we had a scanner going around in Russian language, of course, scanned version. So probably maybe I'll find some time to translate it and maybe do a video about that. So it's like special forces, they're in the field conditions. They can't help have any doctors and or whatever, so they have to do something to revive their organs, limbs, and so stuff like this. So well, whatever.
and,
I think we
and
have to
the,
do a video about this because I mean, I need your critics or point of view on each and every thing that I find, and I think
mm,
it's you'd be very professional to listen to. So I mean, you contradicting yourself, because you said you watched Wakey Wakey Geology and you liked it, and you said you watched the Titans of J Dreamers, right? And you liked it. I mean, Wakey Wakey contradicts totally all these
yeah,
fossilized
wakey
giants
wakey.
in
I
that
think
in particular video that you told.
in that video, yeah, he rejects the idea of titans specifically. If I don't remember exactly the wording he used, but I had already gotten curious after the J Dreamers video before I came across his. And so I said, okay, well, just because he doesn't believe it's true doesn't mean it's not. And I'd been watching some of the videos from Roger, and he's talking about 900-mile long dragons in Africa and eating fish, eating fish that are even bigger. And at first, I was just like, oh my God, because he's very Christian, and is very quick to talk about what the Bible says and everything, and that's not my background at all. Um, but I like to keep an open mind about things. And when he goes through the dragon, he's got a ton of videos on it. I'm kind of looking at it, going, well, maybe. But those are the kinds of videos that got me thinking. And there are these legends, there are these ancient myths of titans, and the Book of Enoch talks about it. It even gives measurements, and if you I can't remember, it's like 3,000 L's or something, and it equates to more or less a mile high,
Yeah, the
and
problem
and
we discussed it when we discussed it is the only problem with this size thing was that how could they feed themselves for so long on so small surface that we have? I mean, if there was a large amount of those creatures, it's the only problem that we cannot solve in this, research.
yeah, unless there's more land, or I mean, if you consider the whole, the giant tree theory, maybe those giant trees had fruit. I don't, I don't know. I don't pretend to have the answers to this
They
kind of stuff.
probably had. They probably had, man.
you know, if when I don't know. When I was younger, I used to always dream of the future and space and, traveling and zero gravity and all this stuff. And it's funny, the older I suppose it's part of getting old, but now I just wish I had a time machine so I could go back and see what things were like in the past. And, I think things were far more far out than we have any idea.
Well, there's another problem with this giant thing is that Roger sings all these vaginas and all these funny things that, uh, and people multiplying those pictures with this ridiculous stuff, and this is really discredits all this stuff. And also, I mean, his research is very interesting, and I've been watching for hours of his explanations, but I mean, the people that are watching him, what are they doing? They engage in all this foolishness, and that actually does discredit all this stuff because people like meet all these pictures and like, what vagina? What the hell is going on? And then they
Yeah.
say all those comments about Mount Fossils University. Check Roger, he talks about it. So I mean,
Yeah, and he's kind of the mud fossil guru. He's been at it the longest, but he's also approached it from a scientific perspective. Even though he's got these way out there ideas, and you look at some of the stuff, and you're just like, well, okay,
no,
whatever,
no, no, no. I mean,
But yeah,
he's perfect. I mean, the
yeah,
people that are following and trying to promote it, they promote it
yeah,
with very stupid things, and this is what
yeah.
discredits it. I don't know what is happening. Either
Well,
they
and
are
that's
trolls or they're just stupid people.
I don't know. I think people kind of latch onto an idea and they want to believe things, and that was my concern. I didn't, I talk about this a lot in the videos, the concept of pareidolia, where you look at a cloud or you look at some mountain and you see something and you're like, oh, that looks like a such and such. Well, people who are more artistic and right-brained, they're going to look at things and I've always been, pattern recognition has been my thing, but you can very easily recognize a pattern that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. You're right.
and so that was why when I started looking at it, I started thinking, well, could this thing really be a giant elephant? I decided from more or less from the beginning that I wasn't going to let that happen to myself. So I started looking at the anatomy, looking at. I tried to approach it where I would come up with a theory about what I would expect to find if it was actually what I was thinking it might be, and then I would go looking to see if I could find that, and it just happened so many times. I mean, you saw in the videos. I mean, I'm up to something like 41 or 42 coincidences, but it's not like, oh, it's kind of shaped like a mountain. Okay, well, yeah, that's a coincidence, but the eye is in the right place, the ear is in the right place, and then when you start to go into the eye and into the ear, that's when it starts to get
Um,
mind-boggling.
how many episodes are you planning to do on this elephant?
Well, I did three, and they took a tremendous amount of work. Not just the recording. I had to learn how to use software packages and all these things. It took a lot of time away from family, and so the first three were really those are the most exciting ones. Four and five, which I have planned. I already have all the materials. I just got to get myself to sit down and do the recording and show it. Those are not going to be nearly as thrilling as the first as the first three, but for the people who find the topic interesting, they'll enjoy it because then I'm going to be going into the minutia of the different rocks and where they're located and how that corresponds to the tissues of the creature. So that I'm hoping to maybe work on the fourth video sometime in the next
Yeah.
week, and I don't know how long it'll take. But and then I've found some other mountains in the region which are interesting as well.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
So
I mean,
yeah.
have anyone big jumped into your research? I mean, I'm not really aware how many channels are researching with mud fossils. Uh,
Well,
anyone big joined you?
I in that first video you saw that some of those big channels chimed in. None of them shared it. You were the only channel with a decent number of subscribers that actually shared my stuff, and I appreciate that. Thank
Mm,
you, because
no
it
problem.
was just sitting there not being seen by people, and that's why I made it. Was because I just love the mountain. I wanted to honor it and
Oh,
unveil it. And so the other channels have seen it and said nice things about it, but they didn't share it. And the the reason they found it initially is because one of my best friends is a very prominent flat earther. So that's how I got on the topic in the first place. Um, the flat Earth man. So.
yeah, okay. So, I mean, nobody from mud fossils theory people came, right?
Well, I've had several exchanges with Roger, and I told him about what I was doing, and I shared some of the rock samples with him. I sent pictures to him, and he said, "Yeah, they're all mud fossils." But really, according to his theories, all rocks are mud fossils,
Ah, so,
from what
so
I
I mean,
from what I can understand.
so nobody said like you're stupid, you're doing the wrong thing, you're wrong, and stuff like this.
No, I've had nothing but well, I had one or two comments that were, you know, they were just lame,
Yeah, yeah,
trolls.
just the trolls. I mean, from the
Yeah,
channels, from the channels. I mean, who are in the topic? I mean,
yeah. No, everyone who's seen him has had positive things to say about him.
okay.
So
I mean,
yeah,
when I find out somebody new is talking complete BS on Mudflood, I mean I write him a comment and say like, dude, you are wrong on this and that, or maybe you can contact me or ask me questions first before you post such nonsense. And so
right.
we discuss it, and maybe sometimes they come, and sometimes they just settle this in the comments, and that's it. So I mean,
Yeah,
trolls are everywhere. I mean. I'm trying to fight those trolls, but sometimes they just stupid, so stupid, that you cannot even have any interest in them. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, Roger said it's okay. Then it's really decent. I mean,
Well,
what
he
is the
he
plan?
didn't he didn't. I had an exchange with him recently, and it took me a while just to get him to watch the videos. Several people in the comment threads of my videos were like, "Have you heard of Roger? From Mud Fossils?" And they're like, "Oh, you got to contact him because with the work I was doing, they thought that it would gel very nicely with what he was doing." And so I sent him some messages, and he finally watched them. And the only thing he had to say was that he thought it was a giant heart. That was it. Yeah.
Mhm.
He just looked at I don't even know if he saw the videos in their entirety, or if he really looked
Okay.
if he really looked at the information that I presented. I mean, I've got I just I don't know.
You have a
I
whole
was
list of this research. I mean,
Yeah, it's they're very specific things that match anatomically, and the locations of them are where they should be based on the anatomies, and that's what I go into in great detail in the video. So I was a little surprised that he didn't give them more thought.
I mean, the reaction is really surprising, of course, because it's his topic. I thought he would, exchange and share something to you, because if he already even took a look at this elephant, because it's famous picture, it's a famous site. I mean, everybody knows about it.
Hmm. You mean the one that I did the
Yeah,
video on, or
yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah
yeah, yeah. This is just a
yeah
famous picture. I mean, everybody knows this site, and we have a bunch of those elephants. I think like three or four on those famous pictures that are walking around the internet, and this is one of them. So,
mm.
are you planning to
Actually
research any other
actually
elephants that are similar to this one?
it's not something I had planned. There are some other mountains in the region that I had considered you know doing little brief videos on, but I haven't found like, wow, there's this and there's that. And I mean, there's a mountain that looks a heck of a lot like a dragon.
Oh,
That's that
you have a dragon or something in the north of Africa, right below Spain. I mean, some Morocco or whatever, Algeria, maybe some huge dragon there. Have you heard
is
about
it
it?
is it possible for me to screen share? I can show.
Yeah,
I
why
can,
not?
how do I do that?
You have to find this green thing, screen share, in the left
There
menu.
it is.
Do you have a menu?
Got it.
And then you have to press a couple of times, okay, 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 and I'll tell you if
Share
I see something.
my entire screen share.
And then you have to close the window without closing the chat. Now I see myself. Say something.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Wait a minute. How's that?
Yeah.
All right. So this is Mount Go, which is well known now. But beside Mount Go is this, and I'm just speculating. I don't know. Sometimes I think it looks like a crocodile. Other times I think it looks like a whale. But see this groove here through the middle of it?
Yeah.
I If that was a creature, I think that is where the spine was, because when you look at a spine, oops, sorry, it's behaving differently because I'm sharing, so it's slower. Um, if you look at a spine, let's see, I'll just find snake spine. These oh, it's a video. I thought it was a picture. Hmm. Okay, this'll show it here. So the bumps on the back of our spine, those connect. Um, and it's very thin bone there. So that would be one of the first things that would break off. So what you would get is the spinal cord would be exposed, but that would be soft tissue, so it would break down quicker. And so there would be a channel, there would be a groove there where the spine is. So I think that may be what's happening there, but it's really evident over here when you look at this mountain.
Oh, you mean you mean the collapse of those joints
yeah,
bone
of this,
and in the collapse of whole cord, right?
yeah, exactly. So the weakest part of the spine is what's called the it's called a pars fracture, where basically where this groove is, you would have the bumps sticking up, and then where the vertebra, the bumps are, that would break off, and then you would have this channel where the spinal cord would go. So
Won't they
this
supposed
is,
to have like same distance from each and one? No, relatively same.
yeah, it depends on how the creature is laying. You know, if this were a creature, then I just right here, ironically, there's a castle right where the head would be.
I think it's it's an even neck or a head place.
So there's a castle there. The
Maybe
whole thing with
maybe some something like this on the back, and this is a castle somewhere.
the it's interesting also, there are a bunch of star forts in this region, and when you look at Montgo, you've got Montgo here, that's a star fort right there, right next to it.
Yeah.
And I was sharing a list of star forts with a guy named Mike, who's on Andreas Zirtus's Discord, where they've got something like 2,500 of those things mapped out so far. And he saw this one, he's like, wow, it looks like steps for a giant going up here.
Yeah, well,
But it's a,
yeah, very cool one.
yeah, it's curious, but anyway, that's what I want to show you. So so there are some other mountains, and people have sent me things going, hey, have you seen this in this area? And I love to hike, and I'll probably go for reconnaissance and try and check out more stuff. Uh-oh,
I think
did
you
I
have
hang up?
really good surrounding areas. I mean, so many, mountains that are really interesting, really interesting. And the one in
Yeah.
Algeria, can you zoom the map over there and I'll.
Oh, I stopped sharing. Let me. You mean the one that Roger's always talking about?
I don't know who's talking. I mean, everybody seems to be talking about it.
Yeah. Let's see. If you zoom out here, where is it?
I think you should, turn this and go down.
Yeah, so you have the whole Eye of the Sahara, and then, sorry, let me just turn off the labels. I'm not used to doing this online. It slows down a lot. There we go. All those yellow ones are, all those pins are star forts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Roger has a number of videos where he talks about this, but basically, like this whole area here would be the head of a dragon, which he says is spitting out some kind of a venom that's it's basically attacking. This is like the fin of a giant fish, and I think it's the Bible or one of the ancient texts is talking about the Leviathan, and that this isn't actually an epic battle that's discussed in the ancient text, but when he goes in and zooms in on, this would be the throat going all the way down and then branches off. and he talks about these channels that are basically, when you look at the throat, that there's chemicals that are coming from two different chemicals that are probably mixing, and if it was indeed a dragon, then that's how the fire is created, is the mixing of the two chemicals, and then it comes out and then does that.
Have anyone measured the fish?
I don't know.
I mean,
You can see this.
the distance of the fish, so we can imagine how big that fish could be.
This would be the venom, or the poison, or the flame, or whatever. But yeah, you can measure. Let's see. Toolbar. Roughly 1,000 kilometers long, or even more, from here to here.
So if the equator is how much?
Well, in the official story, it's 24,901 miles in circumference. I don't know what that is in kilometers.
It's like 40,000, right?
Yeah, roughly.
So it's
the eye
like,
of the Sahara. You know about this, right?
Yeah. I mean, so it's like like more than 2%, 2.5% of the diameter of the world.
Yeah, it's a far-fetched idea. I have a hard time buying it myself, but I think it's fascinating. The question was, if it's flat, maybe there are outer rings. Some are suggesting that, and maybe there's a lot more land, and maybe that's why
I mean, when I zoomed
that's
in,
what they're hiding.
this is that dragon you were zooming in first. I mean, I was thinking about the other mountain, the smaller one, which looks completely more dragon. This one is just too big for my imagination. I was, thinking about the smaller one.
Which, I don't know which one you're talking about.
Just zoom in to this one, and you'll see it just easily.
I don't know where you to the right, to the left.
Let me try to find it myself. I think
it's probably easier. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. Present to everyone. Let's see. I think I'll do it faster with the Google Maps.
So what are the theories right now as far as the cause of the floods? I mean, is it, I've heard different things, plasma events, that I've heard that maybe the star forts themselves are setting up some kind of a resonance that's causing a liquefaction, and it's vibrating at just the right level to turn the dirt into a liquid.
Liquefaction could be used as a weapon for some particular areas. I mean, but I don't really can't really imagine how could it be done in a large scale, because the buildings are totally safe. I mean, they're not even cracked sometimes. We see only damaged buildings in those places where they had huge fires, like Chicago and stuff like this. We see photos like that. But in Moscow, yeah, we also had fire, but we don't see the old buildings with cracks. And the fire that we had, it was like, let me try to 3D. Maybe I'll find it via 3D. So I mean, it was probably this was the mountain, the dragon we were talking about, and it looks like a dragon on the ancient map right over here, exactly this place, and like this mountain area is shown like a dragon on the atlas of Catalonian atlas, right? Have you seen that Catalonian atlas of 17?
Yeah, I think I saw that map.
Yeah.
That showed a
So
big
this is
dragon there.
so probably I'm not just showing it correctly. Maybe we have to turn something. I don't know. But somebody showed me this picture. Maybe they photoshopped it a little bit so it looked like totally a dragon, and it was
Mm.
pictured as a dragon on that map. So whatever.
Mm.
Uh, let's
Are
see.
you familiar with Göbekli Tepe or Göbekli Tepe? Can't remember. I think it's in it's in Turkey. Um, and Graham Hancock has talked a lot about it. It's a site that's got these T-shaped pillars similar to what's at Stonehenge, and they're all completely buried, but they appear to be buried upright. So, you know, it's an odd thing because you would expect if there was a mud flow or a mud flood that it would just knock everything
Yeah,
down. And
this was
a lot of the places seem to be just buried but not necessarily destroyed. And so then the question is, well, how did all the mud get there without destroying everything?
I
And
mean,
that's when, mm,
yeah, you understand your question. I mean, when the people see the word flood, they think like it's a flow, right?
an inundation, yeah.
Or slide, something like this. So, I mean, you don't
Mm,
have to have elevation to get a mud flood. It can go from underneath and just fill the
mm,
area. This is what exactly the result you're gonna have if it's coming from underground. Understand? So it's like
mm.
it has some
Uh,
several sources like springs or something or wells, and it comes from the wells and just floods the area.
you think the star forts might have played a role in that?
Now, of course, because I'm researching right now this ancient gas mining, and it looks like the gas mines are totally shaped as a star, and they could be used by
Hmm.
those who were building those star forts and were mining the gas to
Right.
create the star forts on those constructions after they established the gas well. Gas well is a station, and you can power the whole city. That's why many star forts have large star forts and a small star forts nearby. And those small star forts look like a citadel or something, but they really are not that complex forms. So they could be easily an ancient well of gas because fracking gas methods they have all this crisscross drilling, and
Hmm.
so they can save the place for ecology use. So they can, if you have a bother for ecology, and they probably had it in back in ancient times. This is kind of explains a lot because right now what we have is we use this fracking exactly. Some people say it's for saving the place for the rest of farmers and all this stuff, but actually they poison the groundwaters. This is the problem. But
Yeah.
if you have technology correct, if you don't have any spills, you probably won't damage anything. If you do it really good, and if you feel the left of the gas, this volume with the water, everything seems to be okay. And that's
Mm.
why they have all the starforts near the water, or some they had some reservoirs that they filled with water that was coming from the river, or they could be empowering from the river. So who knows? Or maybe from the sea also. Seas, lakes look pretty fine to me. And most of the lakes could be just flooded quarries. Who knows?
Mm. Hmm. The mainstream, even in mainstream geology, they talk about pole shifts. They say that they've done drilling samples into lava flows, and they can see that the poles have reversed numerous times throughout history, and they determine that apparently by the way the iron filings, align themselves as the lava is cooling and hardening,
You mean
so they can see
magnetic poles, right?
the magnetic poles,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I was thinking that maybe that has to do, some people are talking about these plasma events that maybe
Yeah.
if there are firmaments, if there is some kind of an electromagnetic thing, or if we're in some kind of an electromagnetic torus sort of a thing.
Yeah, I think we
uh,
have it. I think we have it. So you're totally right. This is
yeah.
the place of the Taurus field. That's why it's, I mean, the Taurus is the bull, right? It's a
Earth sign.
so it's a bull. And ancients believed in bulls. India believes in cows. Russian
Mm,
Slavic god was Veles with the horns as a bull, with the head of a bull. So it's
mm.
like it's not like a devil, but it was head of the bull. You know, Moses is depicted with the little horns
Horns.
also. So I mean, if the bull or Veles or whales, whatever you call it, was a god of all this natural, all these animals, all those creatures of the world, he would probably be evil to a man who is, damaging the nature. So
Mm,
it could be. This is the reason why he creates those floods, and maybe he informs the people, the good people, before the flood, saying like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna make a flood in a couple of years, so get ready." So I
build
mean,
an ark.
whoever is ready, they're ready. Whoever is not ready, they're not ready. So I mean, this communication was lost. I mean, in 19th century, we had this communication with God. I mean, people who were receiving this information, and then they cut us from this information, and so
Mm,
they contact him, and they have message from him, and we don't have it anymore. So I mean, and this is why they are profiting from this, and probably. Uh,
charging us for
as as,
energy that
as
shouldn't be
we
free.
yeah, so we could be slaves for them and work for them to build an ark. So I mean, no single person can build an ark for such numerous numbers of creatures, right? So it's like a ridiculous theory that is presented
Mm.
in the Bible. It's like allegoric, I think. So I mean, what it
I've
really.
always thought of it as more of a maybe a massive DNA storage container of some sort, where you've
We
got
have it
one of each species, both sexes, and
yeah, we
and
have it
so
in
that the
Greenland.
species
Greenland
can be
has.
recreated.
Have you heard
Yeah.
about Greenland storage that they have right now? All those sea
I know
gold.
Sweden had one, and they were worried because it got flooded or something like that. And
Okay.
it's supposed to be the future of humanity after we've messed everything up with genetic modification, and Monsanto has done its evil deeds.
Yeah. So
Um,
we have those storages already. So I mean, but can you build something that can actually save the people? I mean, how can you do it? Like if you have to make those people do it for you, right? You have to
mm,
make them pay, right, for it because they pay and somebody is working for this payment. I mean, those who really
mm,
don't even know what they're doing.
right.
Those who are paying know that they have a chance to be saved, right? And that's why they're paying because they hold their asses to get this those money, and worked, eat, crushed all those people before just to get on
Mm,
top to have all this money, right? And they don't want to be disappointed in the results. That's why they are so sure that they're gonna have a ticket,
mm.
right?
Yeah, and you've got all these DUMBs, the deep underground military bases, and the billionaires are building their own private ones, and we've got loads of cities all over the place that have deep underground labyrinths and tunnels. So not just for mining purposes and potential flow of mud, but something's going on under there.
Yeah, because
So the powers that be seem to be very obsessed with the underground. Um,
why is it underground?
well, that gets back to something I was thinking about back with, a lot of people are talking about the plasma events, that if there is some kind of a shift that occurs, that I mean, isn't it? They're they talk about the sun stands still for 3 days, when the end of the world comes and whatnot, and if we're in a big, if the sun and the moon are like anodes and cathodes in a toroid, then at some point what we think of as gravity, this electrostatic attraction, might just shut down, and then things float, and maybe everything that's not, anchored down to the bedrock, meaning all of our topsoil, all of the earth, maybe that just goes up into the air, and that would explain why places like Çatalhöyük and Göbekli Tepe are buried. It almost looks like they've been buried from above, rather than, things have flow. There's been a flow that's come in and knocked stuff down. So it's a far out theory, but it's plausible, I think.
Well, why not? Why not? We have to see it about it. I mean, all those signs and stuff like this. I mean, this is the information. Either you know it either you know it, or either you don't know it. I mean, this is just a yes or no situation. I mean, if they are buying it, they are probably disappointed with the what they made before the 2012, because they pushed the button of reset before and started this process, but nothing happened actually. And what I've heard is that all these underground facilities that they built are just the traps. I mean, you bring all this stuff, all those goods there, and you go there and get locked, and that's it. And they just, do whatever with you. You just, you paid to be a slave. And maybe some of them recognize this, and that's why the leak of information came out just after a short period of time, about in 2012, 2013. You mean a bunch of leaks came out after that? Do you remember
Hmm.
that period?
Leaks of what nature? What kind of stuff?
Leaks of information. I mean, all this stuff started in 2012, 2014. Like, this period of time is just intense. And then we
Hmm.
have the raise of engagement in all those topics. The search results are just, high scaling flat earth, high scaling, and then we have, like, right now we have ancient technologies, like, I mean, atmospheric electricity is research, huge research. Then we have all those giants depictions that we research, and all the
Tartaria
Tartaria, mud flood. I mean, so many leaks
and
coming out each and every
and
day.
Antiquitech. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all this. We don't
I
we don't want to name those things, of course, but you know what I'm talking about.
I asked you once before in a chat when we were talking about flamenco and your thoughts on flamenco, and you seem to think he was more disinformation agent, or I mean,
Well,
where?
as a professional of marketing, right, I know how search works. So, I mean, if you want to dump uh, the interest of public to some search event, you have to be first to do it. So, I mean, you flood some content into the internet. You just flood it everywhere. You make a book on this, you make a book on that, you make a book on each and everything. Like, each and every historical timeline that we have officially, it was totally researched by Fomenko, and he made all
Hmm,
those books on this. So, uh, whoever will gonna research after him will eventually get stuck on his books or his research. So
hmm,
uh, this is how it works. So if you want your search results to be above the rest, you have to work harder, you have to make more original content, you have to, be referring to each and every topic, each and every name, each and every major event, like Christ, Christianity, Crusades, whatever, you name it. I mean,
hmm,
and this is how it works. And they're mathematicians, they're totally programmed people. I mean, they are the people they're teaching programmers, program
hmm,
people that are programming stuff. They are the teachers of them, so they're professors, and they had probably the resources and the funding of all this historical uh, programming
So,
into the
so the
alternative
whole,
thing, right?
so the whole thing about the I and the J, and the injected 1,000 years into
No, 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 no,
history.
no, 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 no. I mean, once you start to do it, I mean, you cannot, have a conspiracy with each and every thing, because you mean, if you show so many interests to something, you probably lose all your money. So you have to pay for something. Yes, like, you guys go there, and they are doing it blind. They totally don't understand why you let them do it, why you funding them, and they just do what they do. You know what the people are worth it. You know that if you like send a doctor to do international foreign relations, he's gonna manage it like a doctor. If you make a president some actor like Ronald Reagan or whoever was an actor, Schwarzenegger, right? He's gonna act like an actor. He's not a president. He's not a professional politician. He's not. I mean, so you throw mathematicians, professional mathematicians, the guys who are teaching programming people, the guys who are teaching math and stuff. You throw them into this history and fund this research for several decades just to do something. And I mean, the result of their actions was to discredit the Western concept of history and to say like
Chronology.
Russia was in the center, in the middle of all those actions, guys. Look
Hmm.
what we found. Christ was Russian. Everything was close to Russia. People were walking around like, and this is all mixed up. And like people like, what? Are you serious? And nobody reads the thing that the red line is that they are writing about Russia in each and every book.
Hmm.
And I'm perfect
Yeah.
with that. I mean, how are you guys perfect with that? I don't know. How are you guys fine with that? Because this is total bullshit. Russia just was one part of all this stuff, but it wasn't the major part, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
This is what the funding was about, to discredit Western history. And this is why so many people are pissed off right now, because this leads many people to do this research on Tartaria as like it was a global empire or something like this. But it wasn't. It was a part of a huge empire that was really existing before. And this is what they're really hiding, that it was split into parts and then it was controlled. And then we have what we have. We have several resets where we lost all our technology, all our paradigm, the history, the reason, the meaning of life, all our natural abilities, all our natural guards and protectors, like giant people that were living alone with us. We killed them all.
Hmm.
We ate almost every survivor. That's why we have so many cannibalistic evidence worldwide in all those cities. So we ate them by ourselves. They probably fed us with all this stuff, and they made us the creatures that we are, just blind kids that were reprogrammed and made
Are
fanatics in official paradigm.
Are
That
you familiar with Jon Irvin, Logos Media? You familiar with?
I don't think so.
They used to be called Gnostic Media, but it didn't really have to do with Gnosticism. It had to do with Gnostic, well, Gnosis, knowledge. And then they changed their name to Logos Media, and they've talked a lot about flamenco in different series that they've done, and looked into they did a whole segment on Scaligerrian chronology and related that to flamenco. Um, and one of the theories that Jan and one of the people who was on his show had is that whether it was Tartaria or whether it was some other civilization that Tartaria was only a part of, they talked about that the spiritual texts that we have around the world, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or the Book of Mormon, these different texts, that they were actually part of a larger canon, and that you could think of them as like individual chapters in this larger body of spiritual knowledge, and that the laws were coming from there, and the morals, and how we should go about living, and that those books were split up and then through translation and everything, it's and they were talking about that was actually the Tower of Babel, and that the Tower of Babel was split up and confounded the languages and everything. And it's a fascinating subject. I'm not qualified to
Yeah.
make any conclusions about it, but there seems to be a lot of overlaps when you look at the spiritual texts, and a lot of the same things are being taught.
What I know is
So,
actually what we can actually visualize right now, and I like all these practical experiments that many scientific groups were performing after World War II. Actually, a bunch of them, and one of those experiments that I enjoyed, it was the experiment about the ants. I mean, each and every particular ant, the insect ant, doesn't know how to build the how do you call it? The hive, right?
The anthill.
Not the hive, right?
No, I think they call it an anthill.
Oh, whatever. So it could be
Yeah.
underground, it could be in a tree, it could be
Right.
uh,
Oh, they
anywhere.
might think colony, I believe is the term they
Oh,
use.
okay. It's a colony
Yeah.
ant city. Let's call it ant city, ant town. So each and every ant, particular ant, doesn't even understand how to do it. So it's
Mm,
like if you split them in groups like for 10, 12, 13, 14, they don't do anything. They're like just running around, doing nothing. And eventually they are like spreading out and dissolving in the streets or in a forest, whatever. So but if you make a certain number of those ants and they eventually starting to make some collective work, the more they come, the more them come, the faster they figure out how to do all this work. And
mm.
this is the same we have in different other creatures with the same effect. So what I'm thinking is why they splitting us, because they splitting us in a small group so we won't figure out the unique idea of what's going on. I mean,
Divide and conquer.
yeah, because we need some governance is what they think, but the governance itself is the union where no laws, no borders, nothing. It's like a whole union, and this is the meaning of empire. It
Mm,
means the in the name of your ancestor God. So it's like
mm,
the track and the wheel and the roots and the trees and all this stuff is all corrected, and that's why we have all those tree depictions in ancient mythologies like the tree of life and stuff like this. This is the definitely the ancestor line, the bloodline that we have, and we all connected some way somehow. Like if we have a theory of three handshakes that we can probably know each and every person on earth with the five handshakes or whatever you call it, the theory of five handshakes. Just imagine like 20, 30 generations in the past, we all relatives or brothers or cousins or whatever. So it's like impressive to understand it. And this is what they're breaking all this tradition. They splitting us into
um,
races, places, spaces, countries, and just donations. Make our donation with our lifetime, spending our lifetime in their miserable goal to save their assets and sacrifice us eventually in all this, process and benefit from it, of course. This is what's really strange, and this is my paradigm. Was why I'm trying to understand what actually happened. Who profited from all these floods? Who profited from all these resets? This is what I'm trying to find out and encourage people to do their research, just for them not to hide the evidence. Because each and every day I see this or that house trying is reconstructed, and we're losing the insides, we're losing the buried floors because they're making parking lots there. They are just scraping all the inside, rebuilding all this stuff with metal, upgrading the ceilings and making more space there so they can uh, make office or something. So it's like the property is very expensive, the land is very expensive, and I understand the economy reasons for this, but we lose our culture, and sooner or later we'll find ourselves in some space that we don't even know.
I was talking with he goes by 13th Monkey Ultra Duck on Zirtus's Discord last night, and he was telling me that a lot of these star forts have been, I mean, they build castles, they do all these things, on these sites. But one of the things that they do a lot is they have football stadiums on them,
This is
and
I told them this stuff just to
oh,
look.
you did.
Yeah, because in Russia we know is each and every star fort in the big city is definitely a stadium. So it's
Yeah.
like
So there's
nine
your
out of 10, 8 out of 10 is the stadiums right now.
is there anything more representative of empire than a stadium? I mean, if you think of the Colosseum in Rome, it's the icon of Rome, right? And and it's bred in circuses. It's, keep the people entertained and, get them fighting amongst themselves. And meanwhile, you can fleece them and, use them as slaves to build what you want them to build. And as long as their bellies are full and they're entertained, they won't revolt and they won't wise up to what's actually happening. And I've lost my taste for sport entirely. I used to enjoy, a football game and other sports, but it's just like feels like such a waste of time now. There's way
Yeah.
too much to figure out and learn.
It's easier to just watch the highlights and not watch all the match right now, because we have all those ads inside. So it's like product placement, advertisement. It's like disgusting to watch all those live matches. I don't even watch them for like a couple of years maybe. I haven't watched any of them. So it's like I've been watching only football championship that was in last year in Russia. Like a couple of matches were so fine, like when Russia was actually fighting back very good and made its way
Mhm.
to quarterfinals, I think. So, I mean, but it's all just just the bread and entertainment. You're totally right. The whole idea is that you can feed so many people with the uh, single player salary is just
Mm.
it makes me sad, because but you cannot feed everyone because the system is not letting you do that. You can donate, but you can donate it only with the permission of the system. So it's like
Mm.
if you're gonna be donating people each and every, you're gonna get broke, totally
Mm.
broke. They won't let you do it forever. They're gonna trap you and get rid of your money very fast. I mean, we have these types of laws in Russia that they can just freeze your account for suspicious operations. I think you have all this stuff in Western countries also, when they refer to some patriotic act or terrorist act or whatever you call it. So, I mean, was a great talk, and just to conclude it, I wanted to ask you a question about the stomach of the elephant. I mean, have you researched any? I mean, if that was actually an elephant, he's supposed to have some types of caves inside that. So I think that would be
Well,
petrified.
I mentioned that a little bit. I mean, if you think about organs, they're very soft. And so I showed in the first video a couple of pictures of elephant carcasses that were actually breaking down, and everything flattens down. And what remains, is the head is the largest part, and the shoulders and the upper back, and then everything else just tapers off and flattens out to the side. So I I wouldn't be too hopeful about finding actual, caves that were, labyrinths of intestines or something like that. I mean, it's possible. I'm not denying that it could be there, but um, the ear was just an utter mind blow, and then to find out that it was the most thoroughly excavated cave in Europe. I didn't even know it was there, and I went looking for it, and all those. I talk about this in the third video where, I go into the eye, and there are all these caverns in the eye, and there are anatomical features that are exactly where they should be. Just the eye alone, there were about 10 or 12 coincidences that lined up perfectly. And then I thought, well, if there's an eye that side of the mountain which hasn't collapsed, it's very likely that there might be an ear. And so as I go looking for it, I'm trying to find the name of the trail, and there's a canyon there, and I find the name of the canyon. And as I'm looking for the trail online, I end up finding out that there is a cave there, and then I find out that it's exactly where the ear should be, and that it's been so thoroughly excavated and with 3D mapping and a team of archaeologists. I mean, it was just like the hairs were standing up on end, and I thought, this is just if this is if it's an example of pareidolia, seeing something that's not really there, but just convincing yourself that it is. It's the most advanced case of it that the world has ever seen.
Oh, I
And
think
I,
in a scale of such gigantic creature, I think you'll be lucky to find something inside this stomach area. Somebody, I mean,
well, I've heard that there is a deeper canyon, or not canyon, a deeper cave inside the eye that we didn't find, that you actually need ropes to get into. And so at some point, I need to figure out how to do, rock climbing and harnesses and all of that, and go back and do some more exploring. And I'd love to get up into the year. I think it's off limits because it has such a historical value now, or maybe they don't want you to make the connection. But I think from the video that's online that I was able to examine, I make a pretty good case for there being a cochlea inside, because the shape of that cave is totally curving the way you would expect it to, and these things on the side are matching up, pretty closely with what I'd expect to find from the hair follicles of the inner ear. So it was, yeah, it's been a lot of fun to explore, and yeah, I hope to. It'd be fun if more and more people start to find it. My hope was that other people would get involved that have a lot more expertise when it comes to
yeah,
the field of geology, and be able to make even more connections and DNA. Let me just share my screen again. I'll just give a
yeah,
little
okay,
preview of something to come here. Um, so if we, if you look at this picture, can you see my screen?
yes,
Okay, so the whole mountain is littered with rocks that look like this. They have these channels going through them, and then they're sitting on top of this bright red earth. And then you can see to the side here, this is iron ore. So I think this is coagulated blood. That's my theory on it, and that as the tissue breaks, it it starts to seep out, and then it hardens, just like a scab would harden, and then that becomes iron ore. So the earth below is very, very rich. And see these channels here?
yep,
These are blood vessels, I believe, and it's literally oozing out. The red earth is oozing out of the rock. It's not that the rock has been sitting in the earth, and I mean, you can break away the rock and expose channels that you couldn't see before, and the red earth will be inside those channels. And this is exactly where you'd expect it to be. So there's something else I was going to tell you about it. This would be I'll go into it in the fourth video, but there's a lot of things that let me just find it. Oh, I'll show you rock. Where is it? Right here. This is amazing. This is like the size of a car, and you can see here this rock down here has broken away. And as it's broken away, you can see on like this is all limestone, and it's gray, and then here it's reddish, and then oozing out of here is this red earth. And oh, that's what I was going to say, is that the red earth would be the red blood, and that's iron rich. That's why it's got the reddish color. The iron gives it the red. And Roger's done 3 different genetic tests that have come back humanoid. It would be really interesting to see if this came back as elephantoid or some other animal. I'm not attached to it being an elephant. To me, it'll always be an elephant, but it could be some other creature, because our anatomical structures are very similar.
yeah.
So
It would be great
yeah,
to find out if any DNA test could be done with this.
I can't remember if it was on Roger's channel, but I heard it's getting very difficult to find a reputable laboratory that will do it. So you'd have to probably find some kind of a false pretense in order to get them to analyze the material. So you can, oh, that's what I was going to say. You can actually drill into these areas, drill into the rock, remove that material, and then drill further, and then you get a clean sample. and that can be sent to the laboratories. So that
Oh,
would be really fun to do. And you know, if I can find a laboratory that would do it, then I could maybe do some kind of a crowdfunding or something to
yeah.
pay for the tests.
I would participate, of course, and just let me know if you want to do it. I think it would be just a final nail for this question.
Yeah, I mean, if with all the things that I've already found and the things I'll be showing in the remaining videos, there's just way too many things that are stacking up. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just like
sure. I mean, the more we
so.
know, the more we don't know. So it's like,
Yeah, it'd be really nice if someone started to approach some of these other mountains, with the same kind of, examining them thoroughly in this way, because the most of what you're finding out there in the whole Titan, when it comes to all the Titan videos, it's all photographs, and if it's taken from the right angle, it looks like something, and that's pareidolia in my opinion. It may actually be that, but to like say, oh, Titans are real and here's the proof, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't work that way. You
yeah,
know,
of course.
I've got loads of pictures that I've taken over the years of things that I took pictures of that looked like something, but it was only because the light was hitting it from just the right angle. And that's not the case with Montgo at all. With Montgo, there's a ton of things that are very specific that have nothing to do with the angle of light.
Yeah,
um,
I think you are onto something, and definitely should we continue your research because your methods and your way of explanation is really worth watching. And I mean, so many
thank
people
you.
should join you eventually because maybe you just not didn't hit the nerve. I mean, if you make the fourth one, send me the link before you post it, and I'll help you with the descriptions and text so we can make Roger followers will come to your video, uh, engage them. So
Yeah, I mean, he's got something like 40 or 50,000 subscribers, and his videos regularly get 10,000
yeah, it doesn't
watches, and
it doesn't matter nowadays how much his videos get. I mean, I'll help
yeah,
your video to for his people to see it. I mean, this is what
cool.
I can help with.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Michael, for joining.
My pleasure. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, and I
And
hope people in the chat enjoyed it. Sorry we don't moderate it because we don't have any time. We're just interested in
need
talking. Yeah. See you
totally.
later, guys, and see you later, Mike. I hope we can do one more time.
Sure, I'll get in touch when I'm ready with the new video, and yeah.
And I'll do
All
some
right.
more questioning on medical stuff. I think you'd be fine to comment on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me know when you want to. Take care,
Yeah.
Philip. All
See
right.
ya.